meeting tonight, please stand and join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
My sobriety date is March 6th of 2014, and for that I'm grateful. Grace of God, sponsorship, and the program of AA. Welcome to the 7 p.m. Thursday night meeting, the Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before we start our evening, please remember to shut off or silence your cell phones. We send a special welcome to any of our visitors from out of town. If you're from out of town, would you please stand and introduce yourself?
I'm Tom. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Bob. Hey, Brandon. Welcome. Also, anyone who may be visiting the Treasure Map meeting for the first time, please stand and be recognized. Yeah. Finally, if there's anyone out there who is at their first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, please stand and be recognized. We're happy you are here tonight. You are welcome here. If you would like, please come to the information table on the side. We have a gift for you. Once again, thank you for being here with us tonight. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous believes in working the 12 steps as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with a sponsor. There are many home group members here tonight that are willing to be sponsors. If you are new or if you don't have a sponsor, you can stop at the table and talk with Randy for names and numbers of home group members willing to sponsor. Announcements for the night. So online financial support for the Treasure Map meeting is now available. Recurring monthly support is deeply appreciated and helps the group fund our meeting, events, speaker costs, coffee, and birthday celebrations. For more details, see Randy at the table. Also, if you give, grab one of these and place it in the basket so we know you put donation in online. Please feel free to take our Treasure Map 12-step cards. They're on all the tables. It's a great way to get information about the meeting to other people. Plus, you can place your name and phone number on the back. Good way to get in contact with people. All Big Book studies for Chapter 6 into action through Step 10 are now up on our website, www.treasuremapmeeting.com. Click Big Book Study for more details. Special events. February 9th and 10th, 2019, Area 63 Winter Assembly in Pierre, South Dakota. For more details, go to www.area63.org. The Sioux Empire Roundup will be March 1st through the 3rd at the Ramkota in Sioux Falls. April 5th through the 7th, 2019, Area 63 Spring Conference in Aberdeen. Flyers are at the back table, or go to www.area63.org. January 18th through 20th, Rule 62 Rendezvous in Bismarck, North Dakota. District 5 Corrections and Treatment Committee. We're always looking for folks to run meetings in the Minnehaha County Jail, the Work Release Center, and the South Dakota State Penitentiary. Background checks are required, minimum of 3 months of continuous sobriety. Contact Matt at mcexpert.com. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous celebrates our sobriety birthdays on the last Thursday of each month. Treasure Map home group members celebrate each month of sobriety for the first 12 months, then each consecutive year after. If you would like to make the Treasure Map group your home group, please see Randy at the information table during the break. The current list of birthdays we will be celebrating is available if you're planning to celebrate your birthday with us and you're not yet on the list, please see Randy at the break at the side table. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous is committed to bringing the message of hope to those who suffer from alcoholism. We believe this message is contained within the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and our personal experiences. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirements for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Meeting tonight's on step 10. It's a Big Book study. Going to begin shortly. If you guys need a book, there will be books available on the break, I think. So if you need a book, talk to us and we'll get you one. Please welcome John to read how it works.
Hi everyone, I'm John. I'm an alcoholic.
John.
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. As some of these we balked, we thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power, that one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at a turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly asked him to remove all our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take a personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A. We were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B. That probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C. That God could and would if he were sought.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Now, please welcome, Shaylee, to read the 12 traditions. That's so long. Help a guy out. 562. Thank you.
I'm Shaylee, I'm an addict. The 12 traditions. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no option on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
We talk a lot about home group membership at the Treasure Map group because we believe it is vital to our recovery. What does it mean to be a home group member? Here's a brief excerpt from the AA General Service Conference approved pamphlet on the AA group. Traditionally, most AA members through the years have found it important to belong to one group that they call their home group. This is a group where they accept service responsibilities and try to sustain friendships. And although all AA members are usually welcome at all groups and feel at home at any of these meetings, the concept of the home group has still remained the strongest bond between the AA member and the fellowship. With membership comes the right to vote on issues that might affect the group and might also affect AA as a whole, a process that forms the very cornerstone of AA's service structure. As with all group conscious matters, each AA member has one vote, and this ideally is voiced through the home group. Over the years, the very essence of AA strength has remained with our home group, which for many members becomes their extended family. Once isolated by drinking, we find in the home group a solid continuing support system, friends, and very often a sponsor. We also learn firsthand through the group's workings how to place principles before personalities in the interest of carrying the AA message. Talking about our home group, a member says, "Part of my commitment is to show up at my home group meeting, greet newcomers at the door, and be available to them, not only for them, but for me. My fellow group members are the people who know me, listen to me, and steer me straight when I am off in left field. They give me their experience, strength, and AA love, enabling me to pass it on to the alcoholics who still suffers." If you're interested in making the Treasure Map meeting your home group, please see Randy again at the information table. So we're going to take about a quick 10-minute break. So if you guys want to go till about, before. I'm sorry. Let me welcome Sam to come up and talk. Madison. Tom.
I'm Tom, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tom.
I'm here tonight by the gift of Alcoholics Anonymous and God's grace. And as I understand it, we're talking about step 10. I think if we look over here, it's pretty well summarized. It says, let your light shine. Let your light shine. How do I let my light shine, huh? I've been drugged down the street just like you have, backwards and upside down. I actually left marks in the cement over on Kiwanis. I sobered up here in I'm sober 12,931 days today. Thank you, God. And I will share a bit about that particular incident. It pretty well describes my story. I started out the day pretty well. I wasn't too hungover. Wasn't bad. At about 3 o'clock, I was in the lounge at what used to be called the Holiday Inn Airport over here. We had a friend in town. One of my partners in business. We'd had a really successful few years in business, and he was in town. We went over there to celebrate with friends. One of my friends from J.R. Simplot from Pocatello, Idaho, was here, and I drank in the mezzanine with him. Started in the afternoon. At the same time, in the lounge, I'm a pilot, and I was drinking too much. And so 5 years before I got here, I had decided if I bought an airplane, I'd have to cut back. You're not supposed to fly drunk. And so I did. And it worked. I didn't drink for probably a week or 10 days. And wouldn't you know, I wound up in Grand Forks, North Dakota at a meeting. We ran a chemical business here, and we had esterification plant in Billings and places around the country. And I wound up, they put the meeting on at the Browns Boot in Grand Forks. And I'd been working for Monsanto and doing other things as I'd grown up in the business. And what do you do at a meeting? You entertain the folks that come to your meeting. And I'm a good fixer. I know how to do that. And I entertained them. And up there was likewise, it was our company that was putting it on. And I was there to help out. Well, they didn't need me for much. And wouldn't you know, I wound up about 1 o'clock sitting on the curb at the Bronze Boot going, damn it, I wasn't supposed to drink this much. So I didn't fly home. I got a room. That night, I was drinking at the Holiday Inn, and Mac was a good friend from Monsanto, and we both liked Jack Daniels, either straight or with a little vermouth, very little vermouth. And we were having a good time. At the same time, in the lounge, the folks at Business Aviation were selling a jet. And good friends of mine, they had sold me my plane, and they had invited me to come in there and celebrate with them. So I'm at the mezzanine talking to Mac, and then I went at 5 o'clock. So I was at least giving the appearance of coming out of business. I went over there and started sipping champagne. Didn't work well with Jack Daniels, but I was polite. And make a long story short, at 2 o'clock, I got picked up on Kiwanis at Minnehaha Country Club in the dip. And it was Wednesday. It was a Wednesday night. Well, Thursday morning then, I guess. Wednesday night, but it was Wednesday. And the cop that picked me up had picked me up before. It was a milder time, I think, than it is now. You had the potential to talk yourself out of it. However, that particular night, I obviously was in no condition. And he made me walk. Now, the unique thing, that was the closest I'd ever been to home. When I pulled off Kiwanis, we lived up there on Donahue Drive. I'm only a block. We had a house on the golf course. I was only a block from the house. I impounded my car. The neatest thing that has happened to me in my life. Took me to jail. I called the attorney. The attorney got me to. I still had the car impounded, but he got me out of there. I ran from. Well, as far as I could run, I ran from the jail to the falls. I liked hanging out at the falls. A lot of good people at the falls. You could drink, you could do lots of different things at the falls. Lots of stuff. Not nearly as cleaned up and like it is now. It was a lot better. Neat place. You could get anything you want. I liked the falls. Just did. I got there, and now the interesting thing about this for me is I'd been going to AA for 2 or 3 months. And I still have the book that Don Tripp gave me to my first AA meeting. And I'd been going to AA. Now, when I came to AA, that's kind of a story in itself. I dressed up when he brought me to that first AA meeting. He told me he'd pick me up the next day and take me to AA. A counselor had helped me get that far. And I dressed up like I was gonna interview to be a member of the country club. You know, you cleaned up. I had no idea what AA was. Alcoholics Anonymous. Going to help me learn to drink anonymously. I don't. I was so drunk that night that I couldn't pass the sobriety test, but I ran to the falls. Well, what's that about? And I got to the falls. Now, I'd been going to AA, and I'd met Bill Murphy, and Dick L, and Plooster, and some of the hard old suckers. And then on Saturday morning, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I know he worked for the railroad. He wore red bibbers. And the reason I remember it so clearly is at my first meeting, I walked in on Saturday morning and I was early. He said, "Why don't you make coffee?" I went in and made coffee. About 10 minutes later, he said, "Would you bring me a cup?" "Here, you bring me a cup." It wasn't. I went in to get him a cup. Nothing. I'd forgotten to put the stem in the thing, you know. I got back to him and I said, "We're going to have to wait." Actually, this is the first pot of coffee I've ever made. I didn't put the thing in it. He said, "The stem." Didn't put the stem. And he said, "You look really good. Obviously, you don't know anything yet." And he was absolutely correct. I knew nothing. I'd had an acquaintance with God when I was growing up, and had kind of stepped away from that because I thought I'm really good at taking inventory. I can take your inventory in a minute. Got to be a good salesman. Know kind of where you're at, what you need. We'll help you get it. I learned that stuff. Well, my folks, my grandparents, we were in the cattle business, taught me well. Went to that meeting, and you never forget that. Just like the meeting I went to, the first meeting I went to, and Carol Thiem came up to me. She was 5'2", and this big around. She worked for the packing business. She was a vice president at the, really polite, really nice. And I went up after the meeting up by the steps, and she said, "Your name's Tom?" I said, "Yep." She took my hand and she said, "Tom, it's going to be okay. Tom, it's going to be okay." And I wonder, what the hell is she talking about? It's okay. She sure was nice. She asked me to be a pallbearer in her funeral a couple of years later. She really helped. That's the fellowship. That's what makes this thing work. That's where we get to in the 10th step. The 10th step starts at the doctor's opinion, where he talks to us about drinking. The Famna craving. I didn't know my craving started after I drank. For Christ's sake. I assumed it was because of the 5th Jack Daniels. If you drink that much, you're going to get drunk. Quit it. Okay, so I heard that. Still didn't know anything. You read further on, and it said men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive, though they can distinguish the bad parts about it, they cannot differentiate the true from the false. And if you remember nothing else, remember that word, true. Can't tell the true from the false. I can't tell the true from the false. Well, what's that about? I mean, I have to admit to you, I was really good at lying. I got home about 5 o'clock one night from being out doing company work with the Stauffer Company. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and my wife rolled over in bed and said, "Tom," I sat down. I was sitting there. We had a little bench at the end of the bed, and I pulled my boot off and I dropped the damn thing, and she turned over, and I'm sorry about the swearing. I'll try to quit. She turned over and said, "Man, it's early to go to work, isn't it, Tom?" And I said, "We're quick." I said, "Yep, it is. I just get my boots on." I put my boot back on, went back out and got in the car, went down to McDonald's and got myself a egg deal and went back to the office. Don't ever accuse us of not being bright. We are capable beyond description. So Dr. Silkworth knew what the problem was. Dr. Silkworth knew what my problem was. He wouldn't even sign his name on the first big book because he wasn't sure they'd go along with it. We're talking about going along with that. Then we get into Bill's story, and Bill's story talks about the loneliness and despair I felt in that bed of morass of self-pity. I've got 2 9mm Brownies. I got an old one and a new one. Paranoid. I don't know who's coming, but I'm ready. One of those I took out on the 13th tee box on that golf course, and my grandfather said, "No, don't do it." I thought it was my grandfather. It wasn't. I found out it wasn't. So Bill is talking about the loneliness, that sense of loneliness that is deep down inside of us. How do we get rid of that? What do we do? What do we do? But Silkworth, see, is talking about the problem. He told us what the problem is. Well, we need a solution. If I got a problem, we got to find a solution, right? Now, am I a messenger tonight or am I a fixer? I hope I'm a messenger. I hope. Because the message of this book, of the 100 guys, we are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. We have made it through the process, through the steps. We wrote this down. We wrote it down. It's a divinely inspired process. So we go to Dr. So we're talking about what happened when you read Bill's story. Bill's story I can identify with. What comes after Bill's story? There is a solution. What's it tell us in the solution? It talks about finding a power greater than ourselves to set the cornerstone in place so we can live in recovery. How long are we going to live in recovery? What are we talking about today? It doesn't matter how many days I told you I have. This is it. This isn't any dress rehearsal. This is it. This is a great spot to be. So we're going to put the corner down and there is a solution, right? What's the next chapter in the book? More about alcoholism? What's more about alcoholism, Tom? It weaves into the story how alcohol affects, how our mind interacts with the process. And then We Agnostics explores more of the process of finding a power greater than ourselves. Isn't it interesting? The first 80 pages of this book basically cover the first 2 steps. I think that's fascinating. We go through We Agnostics, and we heard tonight how it works, and we get into that where it says in how it works. It says, I think it says our description of the alcoholic. So we've gone through those first chapters, right? The description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic. We're finding out about what this power greater than ourselves is, and our personal adventures before and after. So I told you we could be here all night talking to you about my drinking. My personal adventures were the selfishness and self-centeredness. That lady that rolled over in bed, I destroyed our relationship. Alcohol took our relationship. It took my business. It destroyed my relationship with my family. I had plenty of equity, I just couldn't get to any of it. They cut me off. It's okay. They love me. They love me enough to stop. Before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas: that I'm alcoholic and could not manage my own life, that I probably no human power could relieve my alcoholism, and that God could and would if he were sought. Then where do we go? We go to step 3. Beautiful prayer, huh? God, I offer myself to thee to do with me and build with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I'd help with thy love, thy power, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Okay, so now we're going to go to step 4, and I thought, I'm going to put this sucker off as long as I can. My assumption was I'm going to do it once, and then I'm going to be done. I'm going to unload the whole boat. I had a really good sponsor. He was patient, really really patient. Remember we talked about truth? Here we're talking about truth in relation to self. I'm looking at me. I'm not looking at you to see the truth. I'm looking at me. What's the truth about me? How do I handle fear? Am I standing on top of the basketball hoop over there, or am I standing on the curb? How much fear do I have? How do I see it? I need help. I need help seeing the truth. Where do I get the help? Where do I find the help? And they lead us back into it by looking at fear and resentment. I got all kinds of resentments. What am I most afraid of? I'm afraid I'm going to lose something I got or not get something I want. Selfish. Self. Okay? I'm still selfish. I get up this morning and got a new bicycle. I bought one of those e-bikes. This is going to be a blast. I want it to go faster than 20. I don't know whether my wife will let him do it or not. I'm still selfish. In the context of wanting it all. Now, how much selfishness do I need? How selfless should I be? How do I see that? You help me. Because this group is you. This AA is about you. It's about what you do to share. You allow me to be a part of. I get to see. And in the 4th step, I get to see that. On the 5th step, I get to share it with somebody and with God and somebody else. In the 6th step, I ask God to let me be entirely in gear. In the 7th step, I humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings. My shortcomings, my defects of character, they're all the same thing. David Johnson and I went to a lot of meetings together. And a lot of Joe and Charlie meetings. The last one we were at together was in Greeley, Colorado. We were riding back in the bus. And Dave and I were sitting on each side of the aisle, and Joe and Charlie were right behind us. And we knew them. I had spent time with Joe down in Arkansas when I was working for Terra. And we had made a really nice relationship with them. We went to Montreal and spent time with them there and did some other things. But they said on the way home, well, boys, it's really good to have you. We're glad you come to these meetings. We're tickled to death. Make sure you're giving it away at home, right? They never let up. They never let up. So we humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. What do we do in step 8? Made a list. We had the list of people we'd harmed. In step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. We're not doing it so that we're doing it to come from the heart because we love them, because we care. That's the reason we do step 9, so we can see more of the truth. Where am I at with willingness? Where am I at with willpower? Oh, I got a lot of willpower. Where am I at with that willingness? Where am I at with openness? Where am I at with humility? Am I in balance, or am I on this side over here? I humiliate everybody. Where am I at with honesty? How do I know? I'm looking at me. This book helps me look at me. Step 9, we get to step 9 and we get to let go of it. It says if we're painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through, right? Only an alcoholic would use step 9 and call it halfway in a 12-step deal. We'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know new freedom and a new happiness. We'll not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on. Comprehend the word serenity. We'll know peace. I've never known peace like this before. We'll find that no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see our experience can benefit others. The feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. The fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us, and we will intuitively know how to handle situations which happen. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. And when they say that, you got to love these guys. They're doing this all the time. They're telling me I got to get my fanny in gear. What I couldn't do for myself. I got stuff I need to do. I got stuff I need to do. And we're talking about the 10th step tonight. What's the 10th step say? Continued. Continue. What's continued mean? Keep on. Continue to take personal inventory. And when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. We just went through the first 9 steps. We just did what the 10th step says. The 10th step says, see, here you are. This is what we want to do. This is what we need to do. We need to study this. We need to look at it. If you want to see more truth, find more peace, it's in here. First 164 pages in the doctor's opinion. And if you really, well, what you're going to find out here is when you're on a 12-step call and you're standing just like this across the table from somebody you care about and love who's drunk as a skunk. I know what that's like. And he's saying, how do I get out of this frickin' mess? What do I do? We can share with him. I can't tell him what to do. I can love him, and he'll respond to that. He'll understand that. And that's what we learn to do here. That's the message. That's the message you're talking about. Having had a spiritual awakening, there's all these steps. What do? We carry this message to alcoholics, practice these principles in all of our affairs. Simple, but not easy. Price has to be paid. That complete destruction of self-centeredness. Selfish and self-centered. We're right back now, aren't we? Because the 4th step said, what's the 4th step say? Made a searching and fearless moral inventory. Fact-finding, fact-facing, true inventory. A true inventory. The word moral, there's not about my sex problems, and we could, moral, the truth. I'm grateful to be sober tonight. I'm grateful you are. There are a lot of folks out there that are asking for help. They want serious help. They don't want to just quit drinking. They want to start living. And that's what I meant when I said, let your light shine. That's what I meant when I saw that up there. And that's what it means to me. That's what step 10 means to me. If I live in this, not if I know it, if I do it, if I live here, wow, I've never known peace like this. It's great to be with you guys tonight. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Tom. Take a quick 10 minutes. Looks like we'll come back a little bit before 8. Smoking's outside. 8. Smoking will be outside that door just to the right. Bathrooms are through here. Just try and stay in that area. Don't kind of wander around. We'll be back at 8. Thanks. I'm taking this thing. I'm taking this. All right, guys. All right, guys, it's 8 o'clock. Let's get settled in for the speaker. Tonight we are going to be doing Big Book Study, so our speaker will be Mike from Sioux Falls. Let's welcome Mike.
Who was that? Who was that? Kick him out. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Donnelly. I'm an alcoholic.
Michael.
And it is great to be here. Probably wondering why I keep showing up. And it's because people love to tell their stories, but nobody, very few, I guess, not nobody. That's the wrong answer or the wrong sentence. But very few people want to walk others through the book, right? And tonight's a big book study. And so I'm going to do it. Right? So I don't mind doing it. I kind of love it. It saved my life, and that's all that matters to me. I really believed when I came in here that I had a drinking problem. I had all the signs and symptoms of what a drinking problem one might diagnose themselves with, right? And I can tell you that is not what I had. I had a thing called alcoholism, which is very different than drunkenness. And I didn't know that when I came to you. I had no idea. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And over the course of the weeks of doing the Big Book Study and hopefully having some people share their experience on that piece of literature that we covered the week prior, that message hopefully is getting out there. Our biggest desire here at the Treasure Map Group is not that this will necessarily be the only thing that feeds you, right? But that when you're home and you're by yourself, and when you're sitting at a coffee table with your sponsor, or the guys or the gals that you sponsor, that you open the book and you do the work. Our biggest goal here isn't that we have 5 people here or 100 people here. Our biggest goal here is that the message that you get when you're here causes you to take it home and do it when you're not here. Alcoholics Anonymous is really about what we do when we're not at a meeting than what we say or what we hear while we're at a meeting. Right? It's performed at our kitchen tables and at our kids' plays and in our church pews and in our work cubicles and in business meetings, right? And in the tension of a marriage and the frustration of parenting. That's where Alcoholics Anonymous is, right? Because that's real life. The rest of it is some show, right? That's real life. It's where we have relationships. I was reading in this book here just yesterday. And there's a guy named Martin Buber, and he wrote a book called I Am Now. And he talks about that the meaning of human existence is relationship. First, relationship with God. And if that's powerful and impactful and life-changing in some way, that we should take it to the rest of our relationships. And I got to tell you, that's the number one fault I had in every relationship. I didn't even get that. That was the biggest problem I had in every relationship before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. Is that I thought relationships were about 2 people. And they're not. They never have been. They were never designed to be that way. I thought they were. And that if I could just find the right person, then I would be happy. Or if that person that I chose could just act rightly, then I'd be okay. Or if that person that I chose would treat me with the kind of dignity and respect that I clearly justly deserved, then it would be great. I missed the whole thing. All relationships are Trinitarian by nature. They're God, they're myself, and they're another person. And when it's just me and the other person, it's like 2 ticks and no dog. We suck the life out of each other, right? But when God's in the middle of it, then he can fill me and he can fill that other person, and then we have ample to share with each other, right? And then it just flows. When he's not there, then I'm demanding that you behave in a certain way that will, I don't know, fill in the blank, right? Fulfill me, make me feel important, show me love, whatever it might be. See, and I'm willing to sacrifice myself to get you to treat me that way too. That's the other problem, right? That's not what it's about. It's about something very, very different. It's about intimacy. You know, and in recovery circles, we have this great sort of spin on that word intimacy, right? Into me, see. see into me, right? Intimacy. And when I'm not afraid, I can let you do that. I can let you see my warts and what I'm good at and what I wish I was good at that I'm really not, all the stuff I pretend to be. I can let you see that in me. But if he's not with me, now the caution sign's up. Everything's a flashing yellow light, right? I have to be cautious. I have to be careful. I have to make sure I wear the right clothes and say the right things and dress the right way and have the right job and make sure you know how much money I make and what kind of, I got to do all that because the caution light is blinking feverishly. But if the first 9 steps have been completed or are in the process of being completed as best we can, God shows up. And he doesn't show up some of the time. I've never seen it happen where someone has done 1 through 9 and not had a dramatic experience with their creator. Just haven't seen it. I've seen a whole lot of people do 1 through 4 and get drunk, even though they did a 4-step very honestly. But that's not the process. I've seen a ton of people do 1 through 5. And it was sincere. And they meant it. They got drunk. Because that's not the process. I've seen people want and desire on their hands and knees pray the 6 and 7-step prayer after 1 through 5, and it still didn't work out very well. Why? No 8 and 9. No 8 and 9. So it talks about in step 3, right? Because my opinion on this deal, and that's all it is an opinion, right? You get your rights to your opinions, and I get my rights to mine. And as I read the book, the thing that I seem to uncover, and I have the right. This is just where I'm at today, right? If 2 years from now I'm talking again somewhere and I say something else, like allow me that privilege to grow, right? Fair enough, okay? But the way I see it today is that it all centers on 1, 2, and 3. Everything. Here's my problem. Here's my solution. Am I willing to take the actions to fulfill the decision in 3 on a moment-to-moment basis as I'm living my life? Or is step 3 just a prayer? I think it's more than that. I think it's not only a prayer, but I think it's the decision to actually take the steps between 4 through 12. And so once we get to 9 and we have this experience, because that will happen, trust me, if there's people on your 8th step that you need to make right with and you haven't done so, especially that one person, we all know that one person, right? We all have fabricated in our head how that's going to go, and it ain't going to be good, right? I can tell you, you're probably wrong on that. The worst things on my 8th step brought me the greatest relief on the 9th step. I could not have manufactured that outcome. I could not have predicted that outcome, given what those things were. But it's true. And the longer I delay and the longer I push them off and the longer I pretend like it really doesn't matter and this is all about today and all those kind of cliches that sometimes are really good, but can also be used to divert ourselves away from actually doing the work, right? Be patient, be patient. I'm sober 7 years now, haven't done a 4-step. Be patient, be patient. I'm not sure that's why we're called to be patient, right? I'm not sure that's patience, right? Live and let live. There's another great one, right? That means you can't judge my program, I can't judge yours. Like, we're all in this together. Like, who are you to say? Like, I get that. Totally get that. And then at the same time, like if you love me and you see me being a jackass, I hope that if that's your definition of live and let live, that you throw it up, curl it up in a ball and throw it away and come and approach me to help save my life. Because if I'm acting like a jackass and nobody comes and helps me, guess what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now? Acting like a bigger one. So live and let live, I get it. I agree with it. But if you love me, please help me live. Don't just let me. Come alongside and tell me the truth. Right? Like Tommy talked about in the opening comments. The truth. The reason that we have a backdrop of the 10th step as 1 through 9 is because essentially 10 is a reiteration of what we learned in 1 through 9 in terms of activity. Right? Do we have books for folks, or are they all? We got some more? Okay. Anybody need a book before we jump in? Randy will get those for you, boys. Okay, great. And we're going to start right smack dab in the middle of page 84. And what I want us to do is just read it generically. Let's just read it, and then we'll go back and we'll chop it up a little bit. Fair enough? Fair enough? So Tom read the promises, spoke the promises to us, and right after that it says, are these extravagant promises? We think not. I got to tell you, I think they are pretty extravagant. You're telling me that I'm going to know peace? Holy cow. I don't know where you come from, but from where I come from, that's a big deal, right? No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. I had no idea that my maggotness, right, is going to play a role in someone else's recovery. I didn't know that, right? And that their maggotness was going to play a role in mine. Like, again, I get that it's not extravagant among us, but when I'm reading this for the first time, if I'm really looking at the words, I didn't believe that this stuff could happen to me. I didn't believe it could. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us? Yeah, right. You know? And we'll suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves? Sure. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate the insight. Got to go. Turn the page. Let's read on, right? But it says they are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But they will always materialize if we work for them. To me, that is singularly the best promise in the big book. That if I work for the rest of the promises, that they will always materialize. That's a tremendous promise. So we'll just read it through and then we'll break her down a little bit. It says, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests that we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. It's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of his Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God-conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action. And it goes on and talks about step 11, right? So you'd think that step 10, being so far in the program, would be like a lot of stuff, be a ton of stuff. It's 2 pages. 2 pages. And I know that there's a lot of talk, and I don't belittle the talk. I think it's very fine, acceptable. I think it's absolutely, completely compliant with the tenets that we talked about, where people will talk about the 10th step being an annual inventory or a monthly inventory or a quarterly review. Hey, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Matter of fact, Bill even references those kinds of options in the 12 and 12, right? But as we look at the book, it almost sounds to me like it's something that I'm supposed to be attuned of in the now, like right now, right? It says that we've entered the world of the Spirit. I don't know what that means to you, but there's a capital S there. I suspect that in some way that means that where I lived before, which was full satisfaction of my flesh, full satisfaction of myself, full satisfaction of everything that I could acquire, right? In that sense, the material realm of life as my complete and pure focus. That now, after working step 9, provided I've done 1 through 9, that somehow, some way, my thinking begins to change. And I don't begin to see things the same way I saw things before. Things are no longer something to be acquired. They're something to be respected. They're not something to be utilized. I'm to be a steward of those things, right? People aren't pawns on my chessboard, right, to serve me. I suddenly am called to serve them. That's pretty weird, right? It says our next function is to grow in 2 things, understanding and effectiveness, right? That's why we study the big book, is for understanding. The reason we try to apply it to our lives is for effectiveness, all right? Does that make sense? I can't know what to apply to my life if I'm not studying to learn what the program calls me to apply to my life. I need the understanding. And then once I understand what I'm called to do, by applying it to my life will be more effective. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, cool. It says it's not an overnight matter. That's true. Talked about true and false earlier. That is true. But it should continue for our lifetime. That means I'm never going to be done with it, right? It says continue to watch for 4 things: selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Continue. Right? When these crop up, now, I don't know about you, but if I'm walking anywhere, we just had Christmas, right? And I was going through the mall, and I know many of you think because I'm a male, it was on Christmas Eve. Well, it was. And and as I'm going through the mall, like I'm just aware, I'm conscious of these thoughts that are just ravaging me. They're just pouring through my head. I'm stunned at them. Look at that person. Look at that person. Well, you're better than that person. Can you believe how better they are than you in this? Look at this. Look at this. That guy has money. You have none. Just rattle. Rattle. All the time. All the time. All the time. Anybody suffer from this? Anybody? A few people? Good. And those who didn't raise their hand, you're in the right spot. Okay. And thank you for lying to us publicly. Anyways, everyone has this, right? I mean, sober, not sober, alive. If you're alive, you have this. It's just at what degree you have it, right? So when these thoughts come at me, selfish, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, I'm to be aware that they're coming at me. And they disguise themselves in many different ways. I don't know about you, but the wolves in my life come to me disguised as sheep. They rarely show up as wolves, right? So when I'm listening to me listening, right? And I'm trying to be conscious and aware of what's in my head, I've learned some things. Number one, I'm not necessarily my thoughts. I'm almost a bystander sometimes. Anybody ever been shocked and stunned by the thought in their head? Right? I mean, it's one thing to be like, I'm a jerk and blah, blah, blah. And we all have tendencies and propensities, and our passions sort of lean us in certain directions based on all kinds of influences and brokenness within us. But there's some times where I go, oh, where did that come from, right? Like when I'm stunned at my own thoughts, isn't that weird? Look, if those thoughts originate within me, if I am the origin of all of my thoughts, and I should be defined by all of my thoughts and all of my thinking and all of my desires and all of the, and then I'm shocked by them, how could I be the originator and then be shocked at what I'm experiencing? You following all that? A lot of head nods, yeah. That's good. Where is that coming from? Look, we can only guess, right? Some of the subconscious, the spiritual, wherever it is. The point is that I can now determine something very, very important when I think of 10 and 11. And that is somehow, in some way, if I can be aware enough, I can find out that I am as much of an observer of my own thoughts, more so than I am necessarily also the originator of them. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got in AA was by an old guy. And he said, "Did you ever listen to yourself think? Did you ever just pull back and just shh?" And I became an observer of myself thinking. I'm like, wow, that is the weirdest deal ever, right? Weirdest deal ever. See, and I got to tell you, before this quote unquote entering the world of the spirit thing, here's how I reacted. Thought, react, thought, react, thought, react, thought, react, thought, react. 24 years before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, that was my life. And why? Well, because if I think it, it must be true. That was my rule. That was the rule I lived by. If I think it, it must be true. It never dawned on me that maybe I was wrong on any of that. That maybe the things that were influencing me, I was either opening the door to by watching or listening to or, whatever, right? But I had no concept that I could actually pull back from that and decide what I was going to do about it. That's fascinating to me. And so when the book says, when we see selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, what are we to do about it? It gives us 4 directions. Oh, sorry, my page turned here. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment. When these crop up, first thing, we ask God at once to remove them. Walking through the mall, here's a selfish thought. What do? Ignore it? Use my willpower to not advance the selfishness of the world? It doesn't say that. Blow my spiritual trumpet and no, it doesn't say that. It says, ask God to remove it. Dear God, please remove that. Dear God, please take that selfishness away. Dear God, help me not think like that. Help me not look at people that way, women that way, friends that way, fill in the blank that way. I don't know what way that is. That's your mind, right? But when these things crop up, ask God to remove them. What do we do then? It says we discuss them with someone immediately. Hey, man, I was walking through the mall the other day and I was plagued with, selfish thought, whatever. Oh, really? Cool. So was I. All right, let's move on. But you get it out. You get it out. Right? And then it says, and make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. What if we haven't harmed anyone? What if we've been doing this for a while and we recognize a selfish thought as simply that, or fear or dishonesty or whatever it might be, these thoughts that come at us, and we don't act on them? Do we owe an amend for having a thought? Man, I don't think so. It's only when I act and cross that line where I owe an amend. Does that make sense? How about this one? Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Guys, this is where, for me, Alcoholics Anonymous explodes in opportunity. The idea that we are here to not drink is true, but it's not the ultimate goal. To me, trying to practice this portion, coupled with the 12th step, which gives us guidance in this area, is really the goal. So here I am. I've had this experience because I've done the first 9 steps. I'm walking around. Not that I can't practice this while I'm doing the first 9 steps. Of course I can. I don't have to wait to start practicing step 10 until I'm completely finished with 9, right? But let's assume that I have, okay? Thoughts. God, take the thoughts away. Did I do something? This case I did, I make amends. This case I didn't, I don't make amends. I didn't do anything. Resolutely turn your thoughts to someone you can help. What does that look like? And how do you turn your thoughts? I thought I was my thoughts. No. This is a brand new concept. So the first thing is, you're not your thoughts. The second part is, you get to now, because you're free, because you live in the world of the spirit, not the world of only the material. You live in both. You now have decisions to make about what you think. Turn your thoughts to someone you can help. What does that look like? I don't know. Who can you help? I don't know. All I know is that we're going to follow up on step 11 pretty quick. And I've got some information. If I've done a 4-step, I could call the 4-step a lot of things. One of the things I do call it is all of the stuff that I am absolutely convinced is not God's will for my life. That's one way to describe what a 4-step is. Does that make sense? Maybe his will is for me to do the opposite. Maybe. It's a good theory to test at least, right? If I know this is not his will, perhaps then the opposite of it might be. Does that make sense? So I got to tell you, when the guys I sponsor, they call me up, right? We'll have conversations, and and there's a few guys, especially they're listening in, the North Dakota guys. They're really sick up there. Just kidding. And I love them. They're great. But we'll have this dialogue, right? Hey, Mike, this happened, that happened. Hey, did you ask God to remove it? No. Okay, I'll hold. Right? Like, do it now. Right? Why? Well, because what? Other than that, what are they going to get from me? They're not going to get me as a sponsor pointing them to the one who is. They're not going to get me as a sponsor pointing them to the one who has all power. They're going to get a lecture from some jackass who thinks he knows the answer to their problems. And I got news for you. I don't know the answers to their problems. But I know God does. Why should I point them back to me? I should point them up to him. That's what the book says. Okay, yes, no, did you? Yeah, okay, whatever. Right? A few of them after a while, they're like, I did already, just don't ask, we're good. Right? Okay, cool. Resolutely turn your thoughts. Did you hurt someone? No, no amends. Did you? Yes, okay, go make the amends. Resolutely turn your thoughts to someone you can help. I got to tell you, I've seen fascinating things in this. And like I said, it explodes Alcoholics Anonymous to all areas of our lives. One guy wants to love his wife better. That's how he does his 10 steps. He loves his wife in this area, in this specific area of turning his thoughts to someone he can help. One guy plays catch with his son in the backyard when he's able to because of the weather, right? Obviously, didn't do it last week, right? But imagine that. Imagine that Alcoholics Anonymous is about playing catch with your son in the backyard if you're a dad. That's fascinating to me. And it's fascinating because, truthfully, and I don't know about any of you, although I feel like I kind of do, I suspect you're a lot like me. And that long before you sobered up, deep down in your heart, although it was probably hidden by a lot of crazy behavior and alcoholism and all the rest of it, but somewhere in there was a spark. Somewhere in there was a desire to be something you wished you could be and couldn't pull it off. Somewhere in there you wanted to be a good dad, and you wanted to be a faithful husband, and you wanted to be a good wife, and you wanted to be a good friend and a good sibling and a good child to your parents. That's where regret comes from. Regret is an indication that we wanted to be something we couldn't live up to. That's why we regret the behavior we currently practiced. Does that make sense? What if entering the world of the Spirit, as we just read, empowered you to be what you always desired to be? That's a far cry from not taking a drink today. Starts with not taking a drink, but thank God it doesn't end with just not taking a drink. It's so much more powerful than that. And when suddenly our lives become, here's a thought, I don't have to listen to it. God, empower me, help me not take that thought into me. If I hurt someone, I make amends. If I don't, I just keep moving forward. But my life begins to center around, how do I serve the people that God has placed in my life? And suddenly things like these promises begin to take place. And they're crazy, crazy promises, right? The bottom, it says, page 84, and we have ceased fighting anyone, even alcohol. That's a pretty good promise. I can stay sober and not fight alcohol. How about that? That's not what my counselor told me when I was in treatment, right? You have to do everything. You swear you can't go into a bar. Good Lord, you can't. Really? Yes. No, I found that to be not true. It says, for this time sanity will have returned. I get sanity again? I get to call myself a sane human being, which I do very cautiously, right? In 20 seconds, it could all be shot right down the tube, right? But imagine that. Wilson is not making this stuff. He's talking right to our hearts. He's not making it up. It's not poetry. This is practical experience from the first 68 or 100 or whatever. It's the first group. This is their experience. It says we will seldom be interested in liquor, and if tempted, we recoil from a hot flame. That's not how I reacted before when I was interested in alcohol. I jumped on it, right? It says we react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened, how about this word? Automatically. It goes on to say, in case you didn't understand automatically, we're going to describe where it says, we will see our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort or any thought of